congratulations, because you just clicked on the most important video you've ever seen in your life so far. And that's because the title of this video is not clickbait. I am going to give you a guaranteed formula for creating masterpieces. And I'm going to show you how well this formula works by showing you how I applied it to create my ultimate masterpiece, Cyclical Antiquity, the third GSM album. And to achieve that masterpiece, my band applied this formula. Collaboration plus controlled iteration equals guaranteed masterpiece. So the collaboration part is the feedback that you get with your bandmates. One person has an idea, the other people in the band will help to shape that idea if the person who thought of the idea is able to onboard that constructive criticism coming from the band. So right, see how this leads to the iteration part? Because the collaboration is like, do it again, do it again, do it again. So this is where the controlled iteration comes in. Because you could technically have unlimited iterations. And I'll tell you, with this Gas Station album, we had a lot of iterations, but at some point we had to cut it off. And it's worth noting, Cyclical Antiquity took from November 2021, when it was recorded, let alone writing music before it was recorded. And you'll see how far some of these demos go back. But just from recording the bedrock tracks of the album in November of 21, we didn't release it until October of 2023. Nearly 2 years of iteration and feedback, but I'll say it was absolutely worth it, and I think we found the sweet spot when we decided to cut off those iterations. So I have all of the demos from before the recording session in 2021. I have those synthetic drum bedroom guitarist demos, and I'll show you those. I'll show you how those turned into the first iterations of the full band recording those demos, and I'll show you all the iterations we made from 2021 to the end of 2023 when we finally release it. We're making iterations to the last second. But I'll show you the significant iterations. There's like 3 significant iterations for each track. There's like the demo, and then there's like first band record iteration, second band record iteration, third band record iteration. In between each of those is like hundreds of back and forths. Now let's get into it. Okay, let's start with Doppelgangster, the first track on the album. I'm going to show you the original demo, which is now over 5 years old. And of course, this is the bedroom guitar demo, right? This is 100% my arrangement. I did not have any influence from the band. So it's a classic demo, right? Compare that to the final iteration. This, like, it's actually following the form, because look how it breaks in the same melody. That's this groove. Check this out. Let's let's look at the second iteration, right? So now you see the formula of this video is I'm gonna do first iteration against final iteration, second iteration against final iteration, third iteration against final iteration. So check out this. So second iteration of Doppelgangster is a big leap because now you got the real band. So these are what you would call the bedrock tracks. Technically, the second demo is not really a demo, it's bedrock, right? Demo is not bedrock. This is bedrock. Once you record that bedrock, you've really committed to that composition, which is great because then now you're gonna narrow your focus on the arrangement of that, and that's exactly what's going on. So check out this first bedrock of Doppelgangster.
You just gotta keep your head held up high.
They give their energy, their life, because they have a passion for this music like no other fucking band.
The major 7 section, right? That's like the Mac DeMarco. We're on the final iteration. We literally have a saxophone section in there. But listen to it without the saxophone section.
Give their energy, their life, because they have a passion for this music like no other fucking band.
Dude, I love these sections, man. That's the funny thing. They hit all the way on every arrangement. It's almost like we could have stopped here on the second iteration. You know, it is like that. And I'll tell you, when I made this mix, I thought it was damn near close to being done. But then show it to Antoine, show it to Greg, show it to the band, and there's like,
what are you, blind and deaf? Like you can't see that that is not a masterpiece yet?
so it was really that feedback of Greg and Antoine that made these things a masterpiece, and then collaborating with outside horn players, outside keyboard players, outside vocalists. And by outside, I mean not the trio. That collaboration, right? That's really the secret sauce for true unequivocal masterpieces. Collaboration is unavoidable. The danger is you're like, oh, but now collaboration will have endless iterations. That's why the second part of the equation is controlled iterations. Somebody needs to be the leader. Somebody needs to cut it off. All this to say, notice the saxophones on that major 7 Mac DeMarco section on the final iteration. Vibe. I don't even know what this shit is sometimes. The Doppelgangster is just meant to be channeled, and I think I put myself in position to channel it, and so we got to record a masterpiece as a result. But notice the channeling had to do with that collaboration and that controlled iteration formula. All right, so what makes sense here is I'm going to skip ahead to the second section of the song, because you guys know Doppelgangster, it's got 2 main sections. It's got that driving Halloween section. Chuck Berry. Then it's got the dumb step. You know what I'm saying? Masterpiece, right? Unequivocal, undebatable masterpiece right there. Check out where it came from.
It's my girlfriend's favorite band.
Right? Like, that's cutting, right? That's sounding good, right? But listen to the difference, I mean. Put a vocal on it. All right, now this is where you're really going to see it. You're going to really see this, the guitar solos. So now think really about what makes a great solo. It's when the guy recording the solo takes under consideration what his collaborators offer to him as insight. So now what you'll see is, on the first bedrock version of this track, there's no guitar solo. Didn't think of it.
Never commit suicide.
That's supposed to be the guitar solo.
Be all right. What about 5 letters?
It's not there. That's all the guitar solo. See, what I thought was that this groove was so cool that it was fine just be like that simple. But what Antoine and Greg realized was that it was just the foundation. So now let's listen to the first solo iteration, right? First solo iteration. Because they obviously told me you got to record a solo. And of course, my first reaction is, oh, I thought it was fine the way it is. But then I know from experience, nope, they're right. They're right. I got to figure out what that guitar solo is. I need to get to work and figure it out. I got to channel the machinery of the universe right here. Here's my first attempt at the Doppelgangster solo. Like, it's not bad, but I know what the final version of it is, and now when I listen to it, I realize it had a lot of the bones of the final structure, so I already was starting to channel it. But like, it's weak, the dynamics aren't great, like it's not peaking where it needs to. That's a really difficult part of making a good solo, is composing the dynamic into the solo. So for sure, that solo was lacking a dynamic peak, where the form offers the opportunity for a dynamic peak, and that first iteration just didn't hit it. But now let's listen to the second solo iteration. So there's 3 total solo iterations. So this is the one before the final one. That solo was not bad. It was close. It was close. It almost had a vibe that didn't get in the final solo. You'll notice the vibe on the final solo is like less down home, more intergalactic. See what I mean? Unequivocal masterpiece. At the risk of sounding like a complete megalomaniac, that is one of my top 3 favorite guitar solos I've ever heard in history. And when I say top 3, I actually mean the other 2 that I'm thinking of are on this album. And here's the big psychological hack. The reason I think that is because of the collaboration and iteration. That's why I think it. Whether it is or it isn't a masterpiece obviously can't be quantified, but I can rest assured knowing that track, Doppelgangster, is the absolute fully blossomed masterpiece that it was always destined to be, all the way back from the demo. Like, that demo's killer. Like, I remember when I wrote that 5 years ago. I actually do remember, because that's one thing that's crazy about writing music is you remember everything. Because the songs are time capsules and they're channeling the vibe of your reality. So life is so much richer when you're just cranking out bangers after banger, not really worrying about how these might come together for an album or some release. Like, none of these are publicly released tracks, except for that final iteration I showed you, but all the other ones are in my vault. But you have to understand there's like over 300 in my vault. Of course, Greg and Antoine have access to my vault. I'll show them certain things that I think could be good. That's what these demos are, and then we develop them as a band, and that's the guaranteed masterpiece final outcome. So be sure to tune into part 2 of this video to hear me talk about this exact same process over the other tracks on the album. Because like I said, I have somewhere between 2 and 4 iterations before the final iteration of every song on the GSM album. And you see how different they are, right? They're like landmarks. Because in between, there's like a ton of stuff that's going on, a ton of back and forth. But then you're just like, okay, let's cut an iteration right here and master it, and then just like link into this. Not really worried if it's gonna be the final iteration or not, just do it. Feed it back, see how much feedback we give it, see how much we ultimately want to change after digesting it, and literally not worry about anything other than just completing another iteration where all the feedback from the previous iteration is taken under consideration and then brought manifest to the next iteration, of course. Yeah, so this video needed to be done. The folklore of GSM is insanely deep. You guys already know about the GSM Mastermind. On October 4th in Otis Field, Maine, we have rented a campground, which is also a venue. There's parking. You can reserve a campground for the night. So this is like an overnight mastermind situation. We have a big bill that's coming. This might turn into something unbelievably massive, because obviously when I first made the announcement, I got inundated with messages. Obviously people reserving their spots, but also bands who want to get on the bill. So if you want to do either of those things, I'll put the link to book your camping spot and get your ticket to the GSM Mastermind in the description below, pulling back the curtain even deeper.